Welcome back to ORS Chat. Today we are going through all things behaviour support with Dr. Carmen Atkinson and Erin Bowcock. Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Hello.
The fun question that we always do, what is behaviour support? What is it, Larry?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, we've got the experts here to tell us.
So in a nutshell, it's a behavioural approach to increasing a person's quality of life. So what we do is we assess their behaviour that some people might find challenging, and then we plan out interventions to reduce the risk of their behaviour.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's like a behaviourist approach to intervention. So if you think of Pavlov and his dog, how you can affect behaviour change through certain stimuli, that's essentially what behaviour support is.
Do you know about Pavlov and his dog, Laz?
All I thought was Pavlova.
Well, I had a feeling your mind might have gone there. Tell us about Pavlov and his dog.
Pavlov and his dog. So essentially what he was doing was that he was ringing a bell every time he presented his dog with food. And then he started ringing his bell and the dog would start salivating at the sound of the bell, even if there was no food present. So
So he's kind of credited as, he's like the father of behaviourism.
Yeah.
Just really making that link, I guess, and learning about conditioning people with stimulus response.
Okay. That's in
There you go.
essence what behaviour support's all about. Okay.
Yeah. So we do try to understand what underlies a person's behaviour, like if there are triggers and what functions the behaviour serves in terms of, like what are they getting out of it? What are they trying to communicate? Why are they behaving in this way?
Interesting.
So with that in mind, what would you say is the difference between positive behaviour support and psychology?
So they are really similar in terms of helping people work through their goals, but psychs work in a slightly different framework in terms of governance. So they have to be registered with AHPRA, like a lot of allied health professionals. They also conduct psychometric assessments for various diagnosed conditions, so they can diagnose somebody with a particular psychological condition, and they provide therapy to people who are experiencing those conditions or psychosocial stress. So psych is very much about the link between mind and behaviour.
yeah. So the way that I like to look at it is that the behaviour support space is a very systemic approach to intervention. So psych is very much one-on-one with the client and the psychologist, whereas behaviour support, we get to work with the individual's entire support system, whether that be family, teachers, support workers. We get to help everyone in that system support that and better understand that individual.
Wow.
I did a psych topic at university a few years ago, and they talked about behaviour support being, I guess, a sub-branch of psychology. Is that how you guys would see it? Does it sit under psychology as kind of like a sub-branch of practice?
Yes,
Or
it's from that behaviourism perspective. So you look at the behaviourism theory and it's more in line with that as opposed to some of your like CBT, DBT style intervention.
do we feel like it will be governed at some point? When you were saying, Carmen, before, it's not governed at the moment through AHPRA and the same kind of, ways at current. Will psych move into that at some point? Or behaviour support?
Ooh, maybe.
Maybe.
I think it probably should, to be honest.
Making you speculate here on the spot. But I'm curious. I'm curious if it will have a more rigid framework and it will be more
It's
governed.
been moving that way anyway. So when I first started at ORS doing behaviour support, it wasn't as closely governed as it is now. So now we've got the framework so you can move from core practitioner through to proficient, advanced and specialist, whereas that wasn't necessarily in place before. So the more that it is becoming recognised, I think the more there is probably going to be a little bit more governance over it.
Who invented that? Like, that's still doing my head in. How do you go from core to proficient? How do you not start at proficient and move to core? Why that way? It seems backwards to me.
When you're core, you're providing support at a core level. So you're able to provide the intervention, you're able to write standard plans, and you're still receiving a lot of support and training, whereas at the proficient level, they're sort of saying that you are proficient in understanding all of the restricted practice guidelines. You are able to understand how to support with a wide variety of behavioural challenges and what intervention is going to be best suited to that. So
core's almost like your probationary, and then proficient is You've got the
You've
tick.
still got a lot
Kind
that you
of.
have to like sort of get ticked off to get to the core level. So I wouldn't say that it's like probation. I think it's sort of like core understanding.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And you don't actually have to move to proficient.
Yeah.
If you don't want to, you can
You
just
stay at core
operate as-
forever.
Yeah. Yeah. it could
And
just
where can
be
you go from proficient? What's next?
Advanced.
So advanced and specialist are above proficient, but
Yep.
one of them isn't higher than the other. They kind of sit next to each other. So advanced is again just slightly
Yep.
more advanced skills
Yep.
and knowledge, and specialist refers to very much having a specialist topic, I guess, that your whole career has been based on, or at least very, very extensive experience in a particular area.
Yes, more specialised area of practice.
Interesting. Being out in the community and moving between expos and lots of different meetings I have, constantly I'm getting hammered for OT. OT, OT, OT. Everywhere I go, OT. Everyone wants OT.
Yeah.
It's the most in-demand allied health service in
are.
Australia. But I feel like a lot of people don't understand the gap that positive behaviour support can bridge. So behaviour support is something that a lot of mums and dads, parents, support workers, SILS houses, like I feel like it's getting more known, but it's not as known. What is that difference between OT and positive behaviour support? Can they be used together or separately? And is it something that every mum and dad out there, you know, with someone that might need that help should be considering? I've just given you 4 questions all in one.
Yeah.
I think OT is one of those things where they, like even when you speak to an occupational therapist, they'll say that as they were studying, it's sort of like a jack of all trades. So they learn a little bit about physio, they learn a little bit about speech, they learn a little bit about psychology, and then that informs their practice of really helping with functional capacity, so like tasks of daily living and that sort of thing. There is quite a bit of overlap, so like OTs will often focus on things like emotional regulation, which is very much in line with positive behaviour support, but they are more looking at it from a lens of functional capacity and assisting them in tasks of everyday living, whereas a behaviour support approach is looking at how we can improve their understanding of self and their own emotions so that they're able to regulate themselves and better communicate with others and have more quality of life. So there's, I think, a bit of overlap with OT with a number of different sort of divisions, and they sort of help fill the gap in all of those areas with that really intensive support in the tasks of daily living.
So I think you've already answered my question. Like, is that how they complement each other as well?
Yeah, really well.
absolutely.
Well, that's the benefit of an organisation like ORS, is that we do have all of those different disciplines under the one roof, so to say, so that we do very much work with each other. We can kind of come at our clients from different angles and help them achieve their goals in slightly different ways. But anytime, when I think of OTs, I think of like therapeutic devices. You know, they'll do everything from, you know, assistive technology, wheelchairs, shower rails. Kind of anytime we have a therapeutic device involved, you definitely need an OT.
Yeah, they've got a really good understanding of sensory concerns as well. So if someone's got an issue with sensory overload, so there's too much auditory noise in an environment and that's what's impacting their emotional regulation, being able to work with the OT to better understand what it is about their environment that is overwhelming them will then help better inform our emotional regulation strategies.
Meaning, if I'm on the wait list for OT services, could I come and see behaviour support while I waited for, you know, service from an OT?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah?
And we can put in a recommendation report to the NDIS as well, recommending that the person get OT services in future if maybe they don't have that funding in place yet, or for whatever reason don't have that service.
Okay.
And I think at ORS as well, there's such a focus and emphasis on interdisciplinary support. So even if a client doesn't necessarily have an OT case open with ORS, the practitioners that are involved in behaviour support have a very open line of communication with all of the OTs that we have in the organisation. So if there are specific questions, you'll often find people either reaching out to the L&D managers within that division or the OTs that are on site to seek their advice in certain areas. So if you are on like a wait list, you can still get the support and get some of the help while you're on the wait list.
Yeah, and Erin mentioned as well about sensory concerns. So an OT can do a sensory assessment, work out whether a person's particularly sensitive to some type of sensory input or whether they're under-registering that sensory input, and so they're seeking it out. And even if they don't have an OT in place right now, our behaviour support practitioners can work with our OTs and try and facilitate an actual sensory assessment.
With that as well, I guess you could say that without even realising it, the participant might be receiving OT while they're doing positive behaviour support because you're getting that advice from all those different places.
It's honestly one of the things that I do really love about ORS is that emphasis on interdisciplinary support, and the fact that we do have such open communication between everyone within the organisation means that you are getting advice from different disciplines without even necessarily realising it, because everyone is so involved in wanting to learn about each other and their expertise and experience. So,
do you have a real life example of what behaviour support looks like in action?
So when you ask that question, are you wanting to describe what like intervention looks like for a client, or?
I guess just, what's our standard referral that we'd receive, and how does it look like once we've applied behaviour support to that?
Well, Erin does quite a lot of work in the out-of-home care space, so perhaps you can tell us.
We know you've got lots of amazing
those
stories.
Cases.
Yeah.
So I guess behaviour support, especially within the out-of-home care space, I think it's so important, again, keeping in mind that systemic approach to intervention, because for someone that is within the out-of-home care space, often they've got so many different types of supports around them. So getting everyone to work together and be on the same page regarding whether that be like psych intervention, schooling, family restoration. So I think looking at how you can get everyone on the same page and responding to that individual in the way that's best going to support them. So I guess I always call him my little success story, because he's been doing so wonderful. He's had so much thrown at him in his little life, but by getting everyone on the same page, so I'm talking like case managers, the school teachers, principals, all of the allied health services and his youth workers, by everyone responding to him in the same way, he's now got a sense of safety within his circle. So he knows that it doesn't matter what he does, he's going to get the same response, even if it's someone new that's getting introduced to his life. So I think for him, that sense of stability when his world is so unstable, it's, I think, so profound for him, because he now knows something. So even if he doesn't know necessarily that he's going to have the same youth workers in a week's time, he knows that if he tries to hit someone, they're all going to say, that's not appropriate, we need to, let's find something else to do. So he knows that response is going to be the same regardless of who is present. So I think within the out-of-home care space, behaviour support, what it does best is create stability when there's not much stability.
And how does that happen though? So there's a behaviour support plan in place, and everyone in all of those different settings knows the plan and knows how to implement the plan.
Yep.
So the strategies are the same consistently across all of those different steps.
Yeah, and it's been ever evolving. So especially within the out-of-home care realm, you'd be updating the behaviour support plan every 6 months because things do change so rapidly. And working and liaising with all of the people that are providing support to that individual. So working very closely with the school, what's been going on, what are your responses, are you finding success in this, are you finding that it's not necessarily working? And same with the youth workers, seeing what they're finding success with and what they're not, and constantly reviewing all of that and reviewing the responses and updating the plan so that literally everyone that's spending time with that individual is still responding in the same way, even though one environment might be finding success and one might not. It might be that there was something else going on in that environment and we need to include that in his home environment, that sort of thing. So it's constantly reassessing and liaising with stakeholders about what is working, what's not working, and consistently reviewing and updating. Because as kids grow up as well, You've got hormones that come into play as well. Like there's so much that is consistently changing.
Yeah, so much change, And that's the important thing about behaviour support as well, is that just taking that really holistic view of the person and their environment, and as Erin said, all of the systems in place in their life that they operate within, and just really looking at, like I said before, what's underlying the behaviour, but also the environment and what changes we can make, because sometimes we can't just launch straight into skill building and teaching them things. We need to be across their background, the trauma history, all of that kind of foundational stuff of just establishing a relationship with them, which I'm sure Erin would be able to talk more about, and that sense of safety as well, and a consistent routine, making sure that all of the people across their life are doing the same thing consistently so that they have that sense of safety, and then we can work on teaching them some additional skills.
Amazing.
So, like, going back more to the behaviour support role, what sort of qualifications is in PBS?
So we have practitioners with a range of backgrounds. Obviously, psychology is a fairly common pathway into behaviour support. A lot of our practitioners have an undergrad psych degree, or they've studied psych as part of their degree, but also a lot of other allied health professionals. We have people who come in from social work. We have quite a few staff who have education backgrounds, so they might have worked in special ed or early childhood education, some nursing backgrounds.
We also have someone with a Bachelor of Pharmacy, which I think is really handy to have on the team when we're looking at chemical restraints as a restricted practice, because she can give us extra info about what that certain medications are doing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why? That just intrigues me. Why jump from pharmacy to behaviour support?
Yeah.
That's a giant career change.
It's just so wide.
She then studied Masters of Social Work because she wanted to be able to help people.
Okay.
So I think what you'll find is a lot of the people that are in behaviour support really just want to help people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. All of the different helping professions would be suited to behaviour support.
And what I've heard from what you said there, Carmen, is all of our behaviour support practitioners are degree qualified, if not diploma qualified, in the right industries. So there's a lot of providers out there now that don't necessarily hire degree qualified staff to implement behaviour support. So we're one of the leaders in the industry, I believe, with our qualifications and hiring. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. We don't need a university degree to do this role. As you said, we do have a lot of people with diploma level qualifications, but we also have a lot of people with masters and PhD qualifications in the company as well. We do very much value lifelong learning.
Yep.
Yeah, and the skills that people with bring. Who have higher degrees.
I think one of the things that we often focus on when we're going through the interview process is if someone can demonstrate that love of learning and self-growth and development, then they're someone that we want on our team, because someone that loves learning is always going to want to research, whether that be through their own research or through discussing things with others. If they're always wanting to improve, then they're always going to be looking into the best ways to support our clients, and ultimately that's what we want on our team.
Absolutely, and that's one of our core values, right, is excellence.
That's right.
They're not just words we put on our office walls or on our promo materials. I think those are values that very much permeate every area of our business, and attention to excellence and always striving to improve is a very big part of what we do.
I'm a mum or dad or someone, supporting someone. How do I pick the best PBS? How do I find the right organisation with the best practitioner for me? And then let's do the other side. I am someone considering working as a PBS and I am degree qualified or maybe diploma qualified. How do I pick the best organisation to work for?
I think word of mouth is probably one of the best marketing tools that you can have, especially when it comes to a therapeutic kind of service. So you'll see that there's heaps of like mothers groups or NDIS or ASD Facebook groups, and a lot of people will reach out on those groups to see if people have good experience with organisations. So I think it's about doing your own research and looking into providers before committing to a service and seeing, like, you can ask questions. We've got a lovely admin team, and there's been lots of questions that sort of filtered down to us where we can give phone calls to, I think, especially parents, because it's it's a lot of pressure to put like such big
Yeah,
supports into your kids' lives. So
Yep.
like you can call people, and that from that first phone call, you're going to get a lot about the organisation that you're going to deal with. So if they're trying to rush you through the referral process and get you in, then
Maybe it's not the right fit.
yeah. But if they're
Yeah.
going to really listen to your queries,
Yep.
offer some advice, and if they don't necessarily have the answers, then direct you to someone that might have the answers,
Yep.
then that's probably going to be an organisation that really cares about the outcome of the intervention.
Yeah,
Great
100%.
answer.
Just
That's
talk
really
to
good.
people. Talk
Yeah.
to people. Yeah, the NDIS is all about choice and control. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day,
Yep.
people do have choice about the providers that they engage.
Yep.
But yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree with what Erin said. You just got to do your research, look at the organisation. For the second part of your question, you look at what kind of systems are in place within the organisation. What does their learning and development look like?
Yep.
Do they have dedicated staff working across a range of areas?
Yep.
Like ORS do.
Yeah. If you could call out to any PBS staff in Australia and say, come and work for us, what would you say? What's your elevator spiel, Erin?
My elevator spiel.
Why work for us? Tell me.
I think at ORS there is, I think the defining culture of ORS, and again I say this in interviews, is that everyone has a love of learning. So if you're someone that is very keen on developing your skills continuously and not just initially, then this would be the organisation for you. And if you're someone that, I think none of us really have an ego as well. So you can have people that have all of these phenomenal qualifications like Dr. Carmen. And there's never an ego. Everyone's always willing to learn from each other and different
And help
life
each other.
life experience, intervention strategies that work. Like there's just this culture of everyone wants to learn and everyone wants to support one another. And I think when you are working in a mental health space, it's so important for culture to be at the forefront of what you're looking for. So if you've got a good supportive culture, then that's going to make your journey in the workplace so much more successful.
Yeah, because this is quite a stressful job a lot of the time. So just having that open door policy, you can literally just go and talk to anybody, anytime, ask questions, share
From any
ideas.
division as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, we have Trav and Laz, and no other place has Trav and Laz.
No, we're one of a kind.
You're definitely one of a kind.
2 peas in 1 pod.
Check
Yeah.
us out on YouTube.
Like
We
and
have-
subscribe.
We do though. We have so much support from, we have very solid induction process. We have a whole team of people who work on onboarding, as it's called now.
Yep.
Used to be our SPC team.
ORMs.
Yeah.
ORM.
Onboard retention services.
They're all
Onboarding retention manager.
Managers.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of advice inboxes, looking at different specialty areas manned by experts in the area. There's always somewhere to go if you have a question.
Well, guys, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for coming on today, Erin and Carmen. We've learnt so much about behaviour support and all things that it encompasses. And Larry and I have
just mind blown.
Mind blown. Thank you. It was great to have you. Had a lot of laughs, a lot of fun, and we've learned a lot of new things. Thanks for coming on, guys.
We'll see you next time.
Thanks
We'll
for
see
having
you again
us.
very soon. Let's dance it out, lads.